Your mouth says yes while your stomach says leave. You know this scene before anyone finishes the sentence. The favor arrives dressed as urgency. The voice stays soft. Your shoulders lift. Your chest goes tight. You hear yourself agreeing before your mind has even caught up to what your body already knew. Then you spend the next hour explaining to yourself that you are generous, calm, mature, easy to work with, good to love, good to keep around. I am going to show you something harsher than motivation. The guilt you feel when you finally say no is often not moral truth. It is old training firing on schedule. Jung understood this mechanism long before modern self-help softened it. When a person is rewarded for burying anger, need, and refusal, the buried parts do not vanish. They go underground, then start ruling the life from below. That is why your body panics when your mouth tries to draw a line. You are not just setting a boundary, you are breaking a contract they benefited from. They learned you were easiest to reach through discomfort. They did not always need to threaten you. They only needed to sigh, withdraw warmth, look disappointed, hint that you had changed, or act suddenly fragile the moment you stopped bending. And because you were trained to confuse harmony with safety, you kept paying with your time, your labor, your attention, your sleep, and finally your self-respect. What makes this dangerous is that the pattern can look virtuous from the outside. People call you reliable, they call you thoughtful, they call you selfless. Meanwhile, your body keeps sending the same verdict. Your jaw locks in the bathroom after the dinner you did not want to attend. Your breathing shortens when your phone lights up with one more request. Your face stays warm and pleasant while your inner life starts going blank. That blankness is not peace, it is disappearance. The first fracture usually happens in small rooms, not dramatic ones. At work, someone realizes you hate creating friction more than you hate carrying extra weight. So the late task lands on your desk with a smile and a sentence that sounds almost flattering. You are so good at this. You are the only one I can trust. You feel the heat move into your throat because trust is being used like a key. The task was never really about competence. It was about finding the person least likely to resist the transfer of burden. You tell yourself it is temporary. You tell yourself this is what adults do. You stay late, you answer fast, you clean the mess. And then something precise starts happening. They stop asking like it is a favor and start placing it like it belongs to you. The language changes, the tone changes, the timing changes. They message later at night. They leave more unfinished. They forget to thank you because gratitude was only necessary when the extraction was still being negotiated. That is how self-erasure grows, not through one grand betrayal, through 1,000 tiny moments where your body says no and your social reflex says prove you are good. You think you are protecting your reputation, but what they are studying is your threshold. Every unspoken resentment becomes fresh evidence that your limit can be crossed without consequence. Then the pattern enters intimacy and becomes even harder to see because desire contaminates judgment. A partner goes quiet after you disappoint them once, and your nervous system reads the silence like weather. You move toward repair before understanding the charge. You apologize before the accusation is fully spoken. You start adjusting in advance. You pick softer words, quicker replies, safer preferences, smaller truths. You stop asking what you want because the real labor has become keeping the emotional climate stable. This is where many people lose years, not because they are naive, but because they mistake anticipation for love. You think you are being attentive. In reality, you are living one move ahead of another person's moods, so you do not have to feel the shock of their withdrawal. They do not need to dominate you in obvious ways. They only need to discover that your fear of tension is stronger than your loyalty to your own experience. You have felt this in your body. The message arrives, and before you even read it, your stomach drops. Dinner is quiet, and your fork slows because you can sense a turn coming. The room is normal to everyone else, but inside you are already rearranging yourself. You are preparing a softer tone, a cleaner explanation, a quicker concession. By the time the conversation starts, you have already abandoned your side of it. That is not kindness. It is preemptive surrender. Family can wire this deepest because family teaches the first map of what love will cost. Maybe the lesson was never spoken directly. Maybe nobody sat you down and said disappear if you want to belong. The lesson came through faces, pauses, punishments, and sudden coldness. You brought home a need and someone made it heavy. You brought home anger and someone made it shameful. You brought home independence and someone acted wounded. After enough repetitions, your body built the rule for you. Keep the connection, cut yourself first. Years later, you still obey it in rooms that do not deserve that obedience. A parent asks for one more favor in the tired voice that used to stop your resistance before it formed. A sibling arrives with chaos and assumes you will carry the emotional weight because you always did. You feel your chest tighten, but your mouth moves toward agreement because the younger version of you still believes refusal will cost love. This is why adult self-betrayal often feels ancient. The scene is current. The fear is old. Jung would say the disowned parts do not disappear, they wait. They wait in sarcasm, in numbness, in strange exhaustion, in the anger you feel at the wrong person, in the sudden collapse after a social event that looked perfectly fine from the outside. When you are trained to exhale refusal, refusal returns as symptom. It returns as fatigue, dread, resentment, compulsive overthinking, secret contempt, and a private life full of rehearsed conversations you never dare to have allowed. That matters because many people try to solve this at the level of behavior only. They practice saying no with the same nervous system that still believes no equals danger. So the sentence comes out thin. It comes out apologetic. It comes out padded with 12 explanations and 3 escape hatches. They hear the boundary, but they also hear the fear wrapped around it. And the ones who have benefited from your softness hear something even more important. They hear that the door is still open if they press hard enough. You do not become solid by memorizing better phrases. You become solid when your body stops treating self-respect like a social crime. That change begins with recognizing the hidden rewards that kept the pattern alive. Self-erasure does protect you from something. It protects you from the immediate spike of guilt. It protects you from being misunderstood in the moment. It protects you from the face that falls, the pause that lengthens, the text that comes back colder, the look that says you are no longer easy. In the short term, disappearing can feel efficient. You lose yourself, but you avoid the scene. The bill arrives later. It arrives as low-grade rage. It arrives as attraction to people who feel impossible to settle around. It arrives as the humiliating realization that you are loved most when you are least present. It arrives when people describe you in glowing terms you cannot even enjoy because every compliment is secretly about how little resistance you gave them. Helpful, easy, chill, low maintenance, mature, all of it can become code for absorbable. There is a reason that word stings. Because you know the difference between being valued and being easy to consume. The first leaves you stronger. The second leaves you emptied out and vaguely ashamed, even when the interaction looked successful on the surface. You walk away with the familiar ache of having been praised in exchange for your absence. So the reconstruction has to go deeper than confidence talk. You have to start honoring the body signals you were trained to override, not worship them blindly, read them accurately. When your throat tightens before you agree, that is information. When your breathing shortens during a request that sounds innocent, that is information. When you begin explaining before anyone has challenged you, that is information. Your body is not always correct about the world, but it is often correct about the cost. Take the work scene again. The extra task lands late on a Friday. You feel that instant drop in energy. Your eyes hold on the screen a second too long. Your hand stops moving. That pause is the moment your old training rushes in with its favorite command: do not make this awkward. That command has run your life for longer than you think. It has cost you rest, leverage, honesty, and rank, because the person who cannot tolerate a little awkwardness will eventually tolerate deep disrespect. Now take intimacy. You say one honest sentence, not a cruel sentence, not a dramatic sentence, just an honest one. I do not want to keep doing this. I need more time before I answer. That does not work for me, and suddenly the air changes. They look surprised. They go quiet. They become injured faster than the situation justifies. If your body was trained in older rooms, you will interpret that shift as proof you did something wrong. But often it is only proof that access is no longer automatic. That distinction changes everything. Guilt is not always a verdict. Sometimes it is the withdrawal symptom of a role you were taught to play. Once you see that, you stop treating every internal alarm as moral guidance. Some alarms are only old obedience complaining that it is no longer being fed. The younger part of you says, keep them comfortable or something bad will happen. The adult part of you has to answer with evidence. I have survived displeasure before. I have survived being misread before. I have survived distance, disappointment, and the collapse of false harmony before. What I am refusing now is not love. It is unpaid self-erasure. This is where the pattern usually fights back. They may accuse you of changing. They may say you are colder now, harder now, selfish now, dramatic now. Listen closely to that moment. It tells you what version of you kept the arrangement smooth. They were attached to your accommodation, not your depth. They were loyal to the function you performed, not the truth you carried. The accusation hurts because it collides with your old identity as the safe one, the easy one, the dependable one. But losing that identity may be the first honest gain of your adult life. You do not need to become cruel to end this pattern. That fantasy usually comes from people who have confused softness with servitude for so long that firmness feels violent. You are not trying to become hard for the spectacle of hardness. You are trying to become congruent, to let your mouth stop betraying your body, to let your agreements stop contradicting your resentment, to let kindness become chosen again instead of extracted under emotional pressure. That means some relationships will thin out, some invitations will stop arriving, some people will become strangely formal with you because the version of you they preferred was the version that saved them labor. You will see this clearly in friendship. Stop initiating for a while and watch who can tolerate mutuality. Take one step back and watch who experiences balance as abandonment. Answer slower and watch who treated your speed like a right. This is not punishment, it is revelation. There is a hard sentence here, and you should keep it. The people most offended by your boundaries were often feeding on your lack of them. Once that becomes visible, your task is not to perform strength. It is to stop negotiating against your own signal. Fewer explanations, cleaner sentences, longer pauses before agreement, more respect for the first bodily flinch instead of automatic correction against it. You are rebuilding internal authority, and authority always looks quieter at first than people expect. It is not a theatrical speech. It is the moment you do not rush to rescue someone from the discomfort of hearing no. You can practice this in very small ways. Let a request sit. Let disappointment breathe without patching it. Let silence remain silence for 10 extra seconds. Let someone be uncertain about you without racing to repair the image. That is how a different self gets built. Not through one heroic refusal, but through repeated evidence that tension can be survived without self-abandonment. And the deeper change is this: you stop making your goodness legible through sacrifice. You stop auditioning for belonging with availability. You stop proving love through depletion. Because once you understand the pattern, the old pride in being endlessly dependable starts to look less like virtue and more like a wound with excellent manners. There is another place this pattern hides. It hides in the sentence you never say to yourself after the interaction is over. You rarely admit, "I did not want that." You say, "It was fine." You say, "It was easier this way." You say, "Maybe I am overreacting." This is how self-betrayal protects itself. It does not just force the agreement, it rewrites the memory. By midnight, you are no longer describing what happened. You are defending why you disappeared inside it. That private rewriting is one of the most expensive parts of the pattern, because it breaks trust between you and your own perception. First you override the signal, then you minimize the override. Then you return to the same kind of room, less able to defend yourself, because now even your internal witness has been trained to soften the evidence. When that keeps happening, you become split. One part of you feels the insult immediately. Another part rushes in to erase the record so you can remain lovable, cooperative, and untouched by conflict. But you are touched by it, deeply. The body keeps the version the mouth tries to deny. Watch what happens after a week of these small disappearances. You wake up already tired. Tiny requests feel heavier than they should. You start resenting innocent people because the real resentment has nowhere clean to go. You fantasize about leaving jobs, ending relationships, changing your number, disappearing for a month, not because you are dramatic, but because the mind begins searching for emergency exits when direct refusal has been outlawed for too long. This is why the pattern can suddenly look irrational from the outside. People see the final exhaustion. They did not watch the 100 small amputations that produced it. That is also why many chronic accommodators swing between overcontrol and collapse. In one phase, you become hypercompetent. You answer before they ask. You anticipate every need. You become impressive in ways that earn praise. In the next phase, you go blank, delay messages, lose warmth, or disappear from contact entirely because the system has overspent. Then shame arrives because collapse does not match the identity you built around being steady. So you return quickly, apologize for the slowdown, and offer even more access than before. The cycle resets. They call you devoted. Your body calls it depletion. Reconstruction means interrupting that cycle before the collapse. It means respecting the early cost instead of waiting for the dramatic one. The first signal is usually small, a second of resistance, a shift in breathing, an inner sentence like "I do not want to." Most people were trained to treat that signal as immature. In reality, it is often the most honest part of the exchange. Immaturity is not the signal. Immaturity is demanding that your body stay silent so other people never have to meet a limit. There will still be guilt. Expect that. The body does not forget on command. The old alarm may fire even when the new decision is correct. Your hands may still cool. Your chest may still tighten. You may still hear the ancient sentence rise inside you. Be easier, be nicer. Make this smooth, but now you can answer it. Smooth for whom? Easy for whom? Nice at whose expense? That is the beginning of real self-command, not the elimination of fear, but the refusal to let fear vote alone. One day the same request will come, and you will notice the old signals without kneeling to them. The late message, the loaded sigh, the disappointed face. The soft little maneuver that used to turn you into a volunteer. You will feel the old training knock once, maybe twice. then something steadier will answer. Not anger, not panic, just alignment. You will say no, or not now, or that does not work for me, and the room will remain standing. That moment matters more than it looks, because every clean refusal teaches your body a new truth. Connection can survive honesty. Love that demands disappearance is not love you need to protect. Respect grows where your inner signal and outer response finally stop contradicting each other. And the self you are building is not the cold one, not the selfish one, not the unreachable one. It is the one who no longer volunteers for disappearance. Keep this line close. Every time you abandon your own signal to keep the peace, you teach people how little of you is required. Do not confuse discomfort with wrongdoing. Do not confuse guilt with wisdom. Do not confuse their surprise with your failure. You were never supposed to spend your life being easy to absorb. You were supposed to become visible to yourself. Stay here if you would rather own the pattern than keep performing around it.